the Phildor position, so a critical defensive stand. Now that we have mastered the Lucena position, so we'll take a look at something that's almost as important as the Phildor position. Uh, uh, so we'll be setting up the position first. So let's clear the board, and still here white king and pawn is in the same 5th rank. So the main characteristics of Philidor position is that the king and the pawn are uh, sitting as at aside to each other at 5th rank. So this is the main feature of Philidor position. So both the king and pawn are on the 5th rank, and also the white rook. Let's put it in the 8th rank, and black king and rook are on the 7th rank. So let's study this position. So white's pawn up here enjoys the superior king position in the center and apparently has the more active rook. So this rook is more active than black's. This rook on h7 is blocked by the king, and just this h file is doing nothing for white, like it is not doing anything on for white. So though I just listed 3 serious pluses for white. So this is a dead draw, so however people lose this kind of position every day, so we must know what we are doing. So fortunately the drawing idea is very simple, and by the time we finish reading the material, like about the Philidor, we'll be able to draw just any grandmaster in the world with ease. So after our study has just completed, we'll just able to draw with anyone else. So we'll return to position here, but first let's take a look at some things that can go wrong with the defender. So let's we'll be discussing something about passive rook. So though fielder position should be drawn, so things can turn ugly if the defender's rook becomes passively placed, so giving the stronger side free reign to just whatever he wishes to do. So let's put up a position here, like black king is over here, and just putting here black. Okay, so the idea of swinging the rook over to the other side as in such kind of position is very worth remembering, since we'll be able to make use of it again and again during the course of our chess career. So swinging the swinging the rook over to the other side. So this is very dangerous move regarding with this position. So black's passive rook leads to his doom. So white wins because black's rook is stuck on his 1st rank. So moving the rook off of the 1st rank allows, like if the black rook is moved, like if it comes over somewhere else, then rook h8 is a checkmate. So since these 3 are squares are covered by white, controlled by white, so after h8 the game is over for black. So our initial position, let's return to it. Since black's rook is a bystander and gone both of the white kings, so the first player can calmly play rook a7. So this move is very calmly played now, because after whatever black moves, this is a serious threat to black, because when after rook a7, this rook a8 is very unstable for black. So black would then have to resign, because if it moves the rook, then this is a checkmate. And suppose if king moves, then there's a serious check. And after king goes over here, king takes, rook takes, and the pawn promotion to the queen can't be stopped. So this is a loss for white. So let's come back to our initial position with the rook here. So swinging back the rook to the other side is very useful and very strong position for white. So let's glance at another equally hopeless passive rook positions. So let's put our rook king on bishop file, and this time king is on knight file and pawn is just sitting close to the king, and white rook is on h7. So still here in this position, white scores the point by using that same swing the rook to the other side. This technique is very useful for white in this position, with the king is not in the the knight file or the rook file. So still the same technique that we used in the position that just a few moments ago. So swing back the rook to the other file, rook a7 and king b8 to just stop the rook a8 check. So king b8, not a happy choice, but rook a8 mate had to be stopped. So if king d8, if like king d8, then it's a check and just pick up the black rook, and it's the game over for black. So this is not a good move for black, king to d8. So here black has the only move, so b8 was a forcing move. So black might well be advised to resign and find something better to do with this time. So sometimes though you can play horribly and still exist with your skin intact. So here, like after b8, queen c7 is a check, and king has to go to c8. So after that, king rook a8 is unstoppable. So king has to move to d7 square, and the rook is gone, and just black has lost the match. So swinging the rook back to the other side is very crucial technique. So sometimes and black has allowed his rook to become passive, so but it does not matter, because white can't win if he is left with a knight pawn or a rook pawn. So let's check another rule, so another position with this. Now this time the king is on the knight's file, and all the other position are similar. So here, if our opponent's extra pawn is a knight pawn, so knight pawn or a rook pawn, and your king and our king is in front of it, and your king is in front of it, and we should just effortlessly draw, even if the lobotomy scar hasn't completely healed yet. So if only white could swing his rook over to the left of the a file. So if there was square somewhere over here, then this could have a win for white, but sadly such a file does not exist. Because of this, white can't force a catastrophic back rank check, and as a result can't win the game. So rook b7 is a check, and king goes to a8, and rook a7 check, still king b8, and no progress can be made since b7 b7 and rook g6 wins for black. And the king has no other squares, so it has to retreat, and this is winning for black. So the point is that these kinds of passive rook positions are winning for the stronger side. If the pawn which is on the 6th rank is a bishop pawn or queen pawn or king pawn, so thanks to the possibility of swinging the rook over to the other side. So however, a knight pawn or a rook pawn is hopelessly drawn. So since this swing the rook over maneuver is no longer possible, so we'll be studying about now pure Philidor position. So having taken a look at the key passive rook position, so we finally time to return to the position we are to study. So let's build a position here. So king is on this file, black king and black rook on the same file on the 7th rank, and white king and pawn on the 5th rank together, as we have discussed before, and this time the rook is on the 8th rank. So black to move here just draws easily. So remember how just we promised that we would be able to draw any grandmaster with ease from this position. So we weren't joking. So the big idea here is to take away the whole 6th rank from the white king. So we just take away the 6th rank by just placing our rook to h6. So believe it or not, this simple just move ices the draw. So black was aware that passive play failed due to our old swinging rook crouching trick like rook f7. Why just let white check our king, and is a common line of reasoning, but stopping a check turns out to be unrealistic after rook e8 when the rook a7 can't be prevented. So but why didn't black play for the rook, active rook, by rook h1? So threatening to check on d1, because after rook g7 or king e8, white has the strong king d6. So like check, and king moves here. So the idea of blocking checks by using the pawn as a cover is a big one, and black must do this to avoid this pitfall. So suddenly black can't maintain a cascade of checks since rook h6 turned h6 runs into 4e6 using the pawn to block. Block the check and threatening rook g8 mate when just rook h8 leads to the lost passive rook position. So let's bring back to this position. So we just start from the initial position. So now And also note that 3 rook d1 just check fails to uh, king e6 when the checks are over, and rook g8 is once again on. So by the way, the position here turns out to be drawn after all, but it's far from easy and is anything but basic. Let's look for a discussion in this part. So 7, where black just faces his fears and survive against impossible odds. So here rook g7, rook g7 check, and king e8, and rook a7, rook a7, and rook g6. So still we shall not pass, shouts the black rook to the white king, and white king is just desperately waiting for black rook to move somewhere beyond the 6th rank, so that he can just move on. So the defensive idea is now clear, also known as the 3rd rank defense. First, second, third, or it could be in this third rank as well. So if left alone, black will bravely play rook h6 and rook g6 until the cows come home, or g6 or h6. So these two squares are just very crucial for black. So of course, if black lusts for adventure, then he can toss in rook b6. So if he wants to come here, he can come to b6 as well. A longer and more flowery move, but it all amounts to the same thing. White's king desperately wants to stay forward. Yeah. But can't due to blocking power of the black rook. So after that, white has to play e6, and now what white wanted to play, but he has no other choices since rook 8 check king e7 makes black happy. Now white threatens the strong king d6 when black's king will feel some serious threats. Rook g1. So your rook g1 only now does this active move work, since white kings can't hide behind his pawn any longer. So the upcoming avalanche of checks makes the draw obvious. So white was able to use his pawn as a cover, but now the pawn has advanced, so black cannot hide behind it. So rook a4, rook a4. So no better is like king d6, rook d1, and king d6 after this. Let's check king d6, rook d1, and king e5, rook e1 check, and white should be as good sport and shake hands, so because there's no other way. So let's start our position from here. Rook g1 was our initial position, so king e7 was there. So rook a after rook a4, tried to build the base. So king e7 is another very challenging move here. King also fine is like rook d1, rook d4, like rook d1, rook d4, rook d1, and then just rook d4, rook d1 check, and like after rook d4 it was like, so here besides coming the king in front, so we can give a check here. So and rook d4 would be coming, and exchanges of rook, king takes d4, and king e7. So we just move and king d5, king e8, king d6, king d8, and e7, and king e8. So king a6. So this is a draw position. So this is also fine for black. So at least you just maintain the pawn. So let's continue from our initial position here. Rook on this file, and after black, rook on g7. So preventing making a breeze also just does not works for white. So next move is like after rook a4, king e7, and then rook a7, and then king e8. So when king e8, when white can't make any progress at all. So I just strongly recommend that just ponder the ideas in this very common in games. These themes will help us save games when down a pawn, and win games when we purchase that extra bit against unschooled opponent, so who does not know much about Philidor position. So we can just manage to draw our game if we are pawn down. So the basic rule for the Philidor position is the defender's drawing plan in the Philidor position is used to his rook to block the stronger side kings from stepping. So the 6th rank stoppage onto the rank in front of the pawn. So go back and forth with the rook until the pawn is pushed. So until the pawn is pushed, just play with the sixth rank with the rook. So this is the main concept behind the Phildor position. So after that, then just leave their back rank. So we just move the rook from 6th rank to the back rank, or the first rank. So putting maximum distance between the defending rook and the enemy key. So we have a very lot more distance between. So this is another very crucial thing to remember in the Phildor position, that after the pawn has been advanced, we just come to the back rank, and just there is so much a lot more distance between the enemy king and the rook, and begin checking like just Bishop Demon. So this is the main idea behind the Philidor position. So that's how we just got knowledge about two crucial positions. One in the video ahead of one the video that we last mentioned about, and this is the Philidor position. So hope you have got the good grasp over these two crucial positions. So next time we'll be coming up with another interesting positional videos. So till then, play good chess. Bye bye.